I'm Nyassa. I actually recently legally changed my name and gender, so yippity doo dah. That's out of the way. I live in Fremont. I just turned 18 in September. I am sadly still in high school. There are perks to that, I guess. And I'm a trans woman. Lots of fun. Part of me has always just not been happy where I was in any way, and I find this helps explain a lot of my awkwardness, especially as a kid. There's a lot that I was very not like for what seemed normal for other kids wasn't normal for me. So I was always used to being weird, and I just assumed I was weird, and that was kind of my norm. That's what I went with, but I kind of had this dysphoria about more so my bottom half than my top half, let's say that. But I mean, I thought that was somewhat normal, or maybe just weird, whatever. And then when I was 14, I was in a hotel room in Vancouver after a trip that I went on with my family. So I'm Googling shit on my phone randomly, and one of the words I happen to remember that I need to look up is transgender. So I looked it up, and after reading a lot of the information, my response was pretty much, well, shit, this is me. A lot of time online is honestly how a lot of queer people get by, which was kind of annoying when my family is like, oh, well, you've been talking to God knows who online, and they may be filling your head with bullshit about trans people. I'm like, no, that's not the case, unless you think Wikipedia is complete bullshit. They fixed that like 10 years ago. I had, like, when I was 6 years old, I had access to a computer. So I had totally Googled a lot of stuff like, is it possible to get surgery to be a woman? But, I mean, I was a 6-year-old typing that in on Google. Yeah, if my parents knew about that, it'd be a sign. Or if someone knew about that, it would be a sign. Totally. But at the same time, I go and I read that stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool information, so it's possible. That's great. What's a 6-year-old gonna do? So basically, a lot of my life has kind of been dodging around people. I get tired of having to explain it all the damn time. In fact, even now, like, I don't look blatantly female, or I don't look like I'm trying to be female, which is kind of true. I started taking hormones in April. So, I'm still growing. I wanted to take hormones long time ago, but for multiple reasons, which I will get into later, that did not happen, and I had to wait for about 3 or 4 years, which sucked. But I'm there now, so that's good. And let's just say, it was interesting. It's better than just being flat out transphobic, right? When I came out, I don't know how to describe it. Basically, when they were informed of all this, they were concerned more than anything else, which is not what you want to be. If you guys ever have kids and they turn out to be trans, don't be concerned when they come out, please. For the love of God, don't do that. They wanted me to see a therapist, they wanted me to do this, they wanted me to do that. They're always double checking, are you sure? They never really said, is it a phase? Which is the thing that, like, everyone jokes about. One of the more unfortunate and hurtful things that, and not completely incorrect and understandable, but my mom was like, oh, well, maybe you just feel this way because, you have problems with dad. And, that is your male role model, and you don't like that, so you don't want to be that. I'm like, well, sure. That's not the only reason, but sure, I guess. That doesn't change anything. My mom is kind of begrudgingly trying, so I give her credit there. My mother is a lot better than my dad. My dad does not use my name, my now legal name, ever. And my mom tries to here and there. Every now and then I'll wake up to a Naya instead of a Tyler, which is actually my middle name at the request of my mother. I let her choose my middle name. Don't know if that was a mistake or not, but there we are. But I also went through the process of getting a legal name and gender change on my own with no help from my parents. And it was not fun. I got to skip school, but it was not fun. This was my journey. They weren't going to stop me. But it certainly seems like they wanted to make this as hard for me as possible. They were in mourning for their son, because I was telling them that their son no longer existed. That they instead had 2 daughters instead of a daughter and a son. So they were trying to get the son to stay around. Now, my parents' hope of, oh, this is just, you know, possibly you're confused. My parents were totally open to the idea of me being gender fluid, or, you know, non-binary, or NB, as we call them sometimes. And I kind of went along that way for a while, and who knows, maybe I'll go back to it. But physically, I know for certain that I want to change. I pretty much hate all of this. Everything you see here, except for maybe my eyes, because I'm told I have good eyes and my hair is nice. Oh, and my voice. I hate this thing. I hate it so much. I'm also 6 feet tall, so that sucks. Physically, it's... I want to change pretty much everything that I can. When I informed my family of it, I said I wanted to do hormone therapy. They were gatekeeping as shit. So basically they stalled necessary medical treatment for about 3 years. And these treatments are... I used to think that, like, whenever I heard trans people say that these treatments are life-saving, I used to think, well, that's a bit extreme, don't you think? But as I've grown up after a while, kind of just experiencing things, it's not that extreme. It really isn't. They've prevented me from really kind of coming out of my shell more, because they wanted me to do things their way, not my way. And when it comes to someone doing this sort of thing, it really has to be their way. You can't have it your way. You know, and I tell you this, that if you ever have kids, or, you know, your friend is going through this, it is their way. Or you're on the highway. As a parent, you're driving still, which means someone is in the back of the car being dragged on the asphalt. Among friends, it just means I'm a little bit more selective. And basically anyone who I intend to spend more than like a day with, I will like sit them down and I will explain it all to them. Just to kind of help with that. I'm an educator, and that's part of why I'm doing this. So friends just kind of, they're there. I'm very much so the type of person to want to go out and make my own damn family. Because whenever I hear families forever, I'm like, yeah, for some people, but other people, they really have to go out and make their own family. So for school, my old school, I really didn't do much. I maybe just let my hair grow out and that's it. But when I got to high school, you know, the public high school, I went from 7th to 9th grade at a private high school, and then 10th, 12th, currently in 12th, at public high school. We use a system called School Loop. So I wrote School Loop a support ticket saying, hey, the fact that a student does not have the authority to change their own name could be problematic for some students for multiple reasons. One being that, you know, queer people, if they want to change their name to adhere to their identity, then because on here it makes it so you need to have your parents' permission to change the name. That provides parents with a chance to berate children. I sent that ticket in, and apparently, little to my knowing, the support tickets that I send in go to my school. and to the corporation, or the company, whatever. And so the assistant principal got hold of it, and they looked at this going that, oh dear, is there a queer student who might be in danger? Oh my. So like literally 2 periods after I put in that ticket, I got called to the principal's office like, oh crap, did I do something? Don't think I did. But it ended up being that the principal called me to her office to talk to me about the support ticket that I put in and asked if I was okay. And, I explained to her, oh yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying that there is a case that can happen, and I don't think the corporation would like to be, involved in that. I think it would just be better if the student would have access to changing their information, rather than having potential problems. So they went ahead and changed that, and a lot of teachers started, using different pronouns and names and whatever. Students varied here and there, because some students knew me from like 10 plus years ago, so that was kind of what we did. And honestly, it's fine, because Tyler is my middle name now rather than my first name. Extracurriculars, I continued doing Boy Scouts until a month after I started hormone therapy, for multiple reasons. One, because I hate Girl Scouts. My sister's a Girl Scout, and I've had experience working with Girl Scouts. They're all, the ideas and all of that is great. Some troops do some fun stuff, but overall, just what I saw was not compelling whatsoever. So I stayed in Boy Scouts. I actually chose not to get my Eagle Scout. I was very close to getting it, and my dad wanted me to get it. So that's kind of why I was trying. I was kind of iffy about whether I really wanted it or not. I chose not to get it. Not just to spite my dad. I'm not that petty. Some of it was like a gender validation thing. I don't want to go on stage next to a man that I have known the past 10 years of my life, have him hand me an award, and say, I've watched this young boy grow into a man. I mean, it's called Boy Scouts, so I guess it's sort of prevented. It hasn't helped, that's for damn sure. But I don't want to say it's flat out prevented me from it, because in some ways, Boy Scouts allowed me to go to Japan. I went to Japan about 3 months after I Googled the definition of transgender, and that is when I went to the World Scout Jamboree, and I met loads and loads of people from across the world that I still talk to today. Lots and lots of people of different cultures, varieties, and guess what? Basically all of them were LGBT positive. I have a lot of friends online because the internet is extraordinarily queer friendly, because I don't have to be constantly misgendered. Of course on Twitch I'm constantly misgendered because of my voice, but I have it in my description, and then I have mods in chat who will correct people, or I will correct people. The more people that know this, the better, because I am very tired of just standing around and explaining what the hell a transgender person is every time someone corrects someone's pronouns. Like, the best thing you can do for your transgender friend without being blatantly supportive is just, if they get misgendered, correct the person who misgendered them. Like, for fuck's sake, we do it with our pets all the time. In everyday life, if you're with a trans friend and they get misgendered, please. That is one of the most helpful things to do, and that's probably a majority of why my relationship with my parents was not as good as it could have been, because they refused to help in such ways.